Hi, I'm Daniel Briere, and you're watching Nasty Knuckles.
You're listening to Nasty Knuckles, the Hockey Outlaws podcast, with your hosts, Derek Nasty Sotomayor and former Philadelphia Flyer enforcer, Riley Cote, as they go behind the scenes with your favorite NHL players. Time to face off.
All right, welcome back. What's happening, Nasty?
What's up, Brigarelia? In different place today, not in the stew.
Not the stew.
It's a makeshift stew, but I love it.
I like the setup.
I don't mind it.
New location.
I don't mind it. It's a little loud right now. The boys are getting into some drinks here. We're over in Philly. They're having the Flyers Alumni, the 10th anniversary of their
Fantasy camp.
10 years now they've been doing it, and got a lot of big names here coaching.
Oh, yeah.
I can't believe you're not out there coaching.
Well, I can because I'm not a big name.
I wouldn't say that. They could use you. I've seen you coach.
Yeah, you see me coach.
I've seen you coaching. You know what you're talking
I'm a
about.
different
But pretty cool to see how excited these guys get.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, a fantasy week, fantasy weekend. Flyers do an unbelievable job. Flyer alumni, Brad Marsh,
the Hound,
all these guys put in a lot of work to make this happen. And they got my old man, Sudsy, Papa Sudsy, Dad, working it with Turk. And I'm not sure if Hedgehog's here this weekend, but he usually helps out.
I think he is.
Is he? Yeah.
Yep.
And Colpy and whoever else they got around, they do a good job making these guys feel like they're in the NHL for a few days, set up the locker room, do all their stuff for them. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's buzzing. As soon as I walked in, you could just feel the energy, the buzz. And a lot of these guys have come year after year after year. As you said, the 10th one. But there's a lot of these guys that have been here from the beginning. And just, it's like a family, and the energy's high. And like you said, they do a hell of a job. A lot of fun. So
They do.
Great representation of the Flyers.
It is. It really is. Still a little depressed. Lost in the finals last week, buddy. You didn't show up.
No.
Just to even support me. You know, and the old men's league, we lost to our good buddies. It was actually, the final game sucked because we had like 4 guys get hurt, but the Brew ended up winning. They beat us 5-1, I think, or maybe 6-1 with a couple empty netters. We had to pull the goalie early because we were down 4-1. But it was a really good weekend, a lot of fun. You missed it. We're going to put a team in next year, though. We're going to get back into it.
We got to get after it early.
Nasty Knuckles, yeah, we'll get a team together. Playing down. We ain't playing as high as we did last time, but they did a great job running that.
How's the body holding up?
Actually, luckily, because I started trying to do some stuff this summer, I actually felt fine.
Yeah.
My wind was good. Everything was good. Still have no hands. Somehow ended up with a G and 4 apples. But who's counting?
Yeah.
Actually, 3 apples, sorry. But Elvis still said, "Dad, you're dust." So.
Wow. That's what he's supposed to say.
It's true.
Yeah, right?
It's true.
What do you expect?
I thought we were going to practice on Wednesday, and I said, "You think you maybe throw a save in there tonight, Cracky?" And he goes, "Dad, you're so dust." And I was like, "Well, I don't know who's counting, but I had 1 G-note and 3 apples for 4 points in 3 games." He goes, "Yeah, what happened in the finals?"
Oh.
He goes, "That's what I thought."
Wow, just really sticking it to you.
Really, yeah. Like, it's my son. Like, you think he'd be
A little more supportive.
pumping the tires a little bit.
No.
Dad, you're bad, but you're not that bad.
No.
No, but it was a fun weekend. Enjoyed ourselves. So
That's good.
yeah, man.
I wanted to give a little shout out
Okay.
to a couple players that participated at my little Mind Champ clinic down at the campus.
Yeah.
Some drumming. I know you love that.
The djembe.
Rhythmic drumming. Got some djembes for the kids.
I love it.
Getting focused. You know,
Yeah.
you got to focus on the focus.
Exactly.
You need some drumming, Nast.
I can't say focus. Is that what you're trying to say? That's
a
what
little-
Baller says a lot.
It's a little too distracted.
All right.
And then we did a little checking clinic. So
I saw that. I saw your little message. I liked it.
drop the shoulder and some
Did you
kids'
show him that
chest
reverse?
cavities.
Did you show him that reverse hit like Gio always throws?
Oh yeah. A little bit.
The Forsberg.
Oh yeah, a little bit of everything.
Yeah. That's awesome.
We had a couple of the kids mentioned they listen to the pod, so I just want to give a shout out.
Thank you guys,
listeners out there.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So, all right, Nas, it's time for a Bet365 segment.
Yes.
Obviously brought to you by Bet365, proud partner of Nasty Knuckles. Open an account today with Bet365 and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code HockeyCA. Nas, you got that app open?
I've got my app open, and I'm telling you what I'm doing. I'm going to the NHL for a little future bet because I got a really good feeling about Craig Berube being there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to take Austin Matthews. The one thing is Vegas, I mean, they usually know they're right around the right place, but I'm going to take Austin Matthews to score more than 56.5 goals this year. 56.5, if you want to say it that way, at a minus 115. He almost had 70 last year. Chief behind the bench is going to push him.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he's going to get 70.
But
I'm going to go over that number. That's my play.
I like it.
All right.
It's a pretty solid pick.
What do you got?
Well, I'm feeling pretty confident with Connor Bedard.
Oh, Bedsy?
Over 30 and a half goals this year.
Oh, I like that play.
Oh, yeah, me too. Feeling it. And that's at a dash 140.
Okay. All right. I feel like he is definitely, I think that's a good play, Riggs.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident.
Yeah.
So we're obviously going with some goal scorers here. Moved away from the Olympics. The Olympics are over now.
Yeah, you know, that research you did.
It came through.
Did it come through? Not sure about that.
But my Eagles pick did, though.
Yes, it did. It did. You're on fire.
Been doing a lot
as good as your
research.
Your last play.
Only as good as your last play.
Oh, all right.
All right, it's that time, Nast.
Is it time?
169. Can you believe it?
I can't.
With our good friend, GM of the Flyers,
yes,
Daniel Briere.
Little guy.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Welcome back. I'm Riley Cote.
And I'm Derek Settlemyer. And this week, we are more than excited to finally lock this guy down. He's been dodging us, Riggs. He's been dodging us. We're not cool. No, I'm kidding. This young man was drafted in the 96 NHL entry draft by the Phoenix Coyotes. First round, did I say that?
You did.
First round pick, 24th overall, where you played over 5 seasons, I believe, a little over 5 seasons, and on to 4 seasons with Buffalo, and finally where you belong, into black and orange. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Daniel Briere to the show. Thanks, little guy, for coming.
The little guy, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. It's pretty cool. You guys have done a great job, always listening to your show, so it's an honor to be on with you guys.
Right at bedtime, so you can get right to sleep.
Yeah, right.
Like the chief says, I just throw you on and
lay on the pillow.
Get some different ideas running in there.
Yeah. Oh, man. So just start off by, what's going on this weekend? It's a pretty big deal. 10th anniversary of the Flyers Alumni.
Yeah, Flyers Fantasy Camp, Alumni Camp. I've done, I think this is year 10, I've done 9 of them, I believe. This is the best. It's the one event that we do, for me, the alumni, that I don't want to miss. We see a lot of guys come back year after years. It's just pretty cool. You develop relationship with some of we call them the campers.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're bringing a bunch of 5-year-olds.
Yeah, right.
Some nights that's what it looks like, but it's a blast. It's one of the best event to do. We don't play, we just coach. We pretend to coach.
Yeah.
They pretend
Make
to
it
play,
look like you're coaching.
And it's a blast. So I'm excited to be here this weekend.
That's great. It was good energy down in the lobby, a lot of buzz.
Yeah.
It seemed like a lot of guys obviously knew each other from previous years, like you mentioned.
Yeah,
so.
it's mostly the same guys that keep coming back because they love it so much and they get to know each other. Usually the teams stay pretty much the same too.
Oh yeah, so you build a rivalry there.
There's rivalries and so it's a blast.
I have a few guys that actually come in for this every year, and they've become customers of mine for my shop, and they'll ship me their steel. And last year they were like, I don't think Ronnie Moore has won a game since he's been here. And I think this might be the first year he isn't coming, but he's like, these teams, we haven't won a game. Again, last year they lost every game, but you're right. It's such a cool thing. I've been to a lot of the dinners on the last night, and it's just such a cool time. And these guys obviously getting to be coached by you and the other alumni guys. It's really awesome.
Yeah.
Danny, I want to ask you first, first question I got to ask you. Do you have anything you want to drop right now for us?
Any inside scoops?
I'm kidding, man.
I should have been working on something for you guys. Unfortunately,
breaking news.
It's pretty quiet at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm messing with you. I did want to ask you, like, when did you start first thinking about, like, maybe getting into management, coaching, or anything like that? Were you still playing, or?
That's a side of the business that I always love. Even as a player, I always watched how teams were being built, how certain GMs would build their teams. Some guys, as you guys know, like they watch how the coaches do their stuff, their drills and line combination. And for me, it was always it was how the GM would build this team. That's what interested me a lot more than the coaching. But I had no idea that's something I'd do after my career. I was very fortunate. I had a great time here, got great relationship with a lot of people. And when I retired, the first person to call me was Paul Holmgren. And had a great relationship with him. He's the one that brought me to Philly. He was the GM when I signed as a free agent. So it was pretty cool to get the phone call. And he said, "Well, look, we don't have anything on the hockey side, but if you want to learn kind of what I'm doing on the business side as a team president, you're welcome to join in." So I started doing that, and they gave me the option to come as much or as little as I wanted to. Oh, that's nice. And it was so much fun learning. I remember my first few meetings, they're using all kinds of acronyms, and it was way over my head. I was just sitting around, like pretending to know that I knew what was going on.
The aggregate,
and a couple ladies kind of figured it out, looking at me. They were laughing, so they made me a cheat sheet, for FSCs and like stuff like that. So it was they saved me. It was really nice. Cards, and slowly I got more and more comfortable, and then. The Mariners came around, so Homer asked me if I wanted to take over and run the Mariners along with him, and then did that for a few years. Out of the pandemic, I started helping out with the players. That was 3-4 years later. I started helping out with the guys that had COVID, so the rehab part when they were ready to come back and skate. A lot of the times the players were on the road, so I started skating, started getting involved in player development a little later that year, and then out of the blue, Marc Bergevin got fired in Montreal, and the Montreal Canadiens called to see if I would be interested in interviewing for their GM job. So I was like, whoa, okay, yeah, that's a little more serious than I expected. And next thing you know, I'm going for a second and third round of interview. So, it was Chuck Fletcher at the time, kind of put more on my plate, a little bit more, and got to learn kind of what he was going through and what the organization was going about. And it's not something that I had planned that I said that's what I wanted to become. It just kind of evolved into it. And I feel fortunate that, after I retired, I came back to Philly. The kids, this is their hometown. My wife Misha is from Philly, so it was just the perfect scenario on top of it when everything came together. And growing in the organization, understanding, I think, what the fan base wants, because we're a little different than other teams. You got to build your team a little bit towards what your fan base wants. And knowing that coming in, knowing the different departments, the different people around the team certainly helped a lot too.
Chuck made the right decision there, putting more on your plate, and thank goodness you didn't end up in Montreal, though. Probably would have been pretty cool for you, but we're glad to have you here because it's where you belong.
I was going to ask him, like, it was interesting that you said that you didn't really know what direction you were really going. You were following Homer around, but you didn't really have that North Star to work towards. Like, when did that shift? Is that kind of the main Mariners opportunity?
I think I kind of got the bug because at first I asked Homer. I said, okay, I'm building an organization with the Maine Mariners, ECHL. There's no names. There's no logo. We were moving from, it's a team that was in Alaska the year or two before that we were taking over, but it came with no players, no equipment, or barely anything. So there's a lot to do. We needed to create a name, a logo, build a staff. We had no staff, so it was me and Adam Goldberg were the first 2 employees under Paul Holmgren. And then he started hiring some people on the business side. I started hiring some people, a coach. I had an assistant coach, started with Riley Armstrong, who's now part of our development staff for the Flyers, and trickled on. And I realized at that point, it was great learning and understanding how the business side works, and I really feel that it helps me today.
Sure.
But at the same time, the bug was on the hockey side. Building the hockey team was really where I started to get excited. I remember asking Homer early on. I said, "Do I need to move to Portland, or do I?" He says, "No, you can stay in Philly unless you want to, start running the hockey team too and the players." And then I was starting to get the bug, and more and more, spending more and more time in Portland to oversee the team. So that's probably where the bug started.
Yeah,
I remember, Danny, when I was still with the team, and it was your first. You guys had just had your first weekend of games. I don't know if it was your first or second year with the team, but it made me laugh because we were standing in the hallway and talking to him. I hadn't seen him in a few weeks, and I said, "How's your team doing?" And you're like, the smiles and everything just went 180, and he goes, we lost Friday night. So I'm talking to the coach, and I've got video. And then he goes, "Well, the boys play." He goes, "I watched the video. They didn't play hard." And I said, "Whoa! Where are we going here? How quickly you went from a player." You remember that? I said, "I can remember you
started
as a player."
laughing.
I just started laughing because he got. I said, "Well, this is you're such an ultra competitive guy. Obviously, everyone saw that on the ice, but obviously, to do what you're doing now, you have to have it in you."
Oh, yeah,
right?
100%,
Everyone wants to win. So I just remember that. It made me laugh so hard because he just totally did a 180.
And it's tough now because we have no control.
Right.
And coaching and watching for a lot of years, you're on the bench and it's like, or I'm upstairs and you're watching, and it's like, you can't do anything about it.
That's it.
The players control everything. So it's different that way.
Yeah. Well, since you're talking about that, like how much emotion are you kind of allowed to kind of bring, if that makes any sense? Like, how much are you able to pour into the game itself? Because you could lose your shit. I mean, every game, every shift, right? Being critical of the play, of the player. I mean, how much are you letting it affect the emotional body?
It's pretty funny because there's a lot more emotion, amongst ourselves than I realized as a player. But I try to stay in control. But there's moments that
there's cameras, right? Too, right?
There's cameras. There's a camera somewhere waiting to catch you.
Scheming.
And you've seen it. You've seen it from other GMs sometimes losing their cool, and I can totally understand why.
Yeah.
It's not always easy, but at
Poker
the same time, like you love your players and you're so happy when good things happen to them.
Yeah. I bet. It's got to be tough because you have to show and have composure, but you're an emotional guy, right? It is your life and it is your team,
and you have to be careful, right? It's always a fine line because. As a player, you're the one going to bat and having to either fight or take hits and get hurt and make those plays. So, it's a fine line to be careful when you get in there and you start talking to the players to not, act as if, you were there. You might have done it in the past, but in today's game, it's the players now, and you got to respect that they're the one putting in the work.
That's right.
I remember, when we were talking, sometimes some people come down and they try to overtake some of the situation, and so I try to stay cognizant of that too and respect what the players and what they're doing on the ice.
One of the things about you, Danny, is you're able to. I feel like you always hear the term player coach. You're a player's coach. I feel like you're probably a player's GM. One, you're not that far removed from the game, obviously, and I know all the guys respect you because I'm still close with a lot of the guys on your team, and they talk about how much they love you and being able to, you basically have an open door in your. But I think it's cool. I've heard you talk about, I know you try to travel as much as you can with a team just to be around it and get the feel. I mean, I'm sure that's a big part of being the GM is. Obviously, you gotta have
knowing what's going on.
At all times. But would you consider yourself a player's GM?
I don't know. I've never heard of that term, right? It's,
I
it's
haven't either,
different.
but that's a new term.
You
Right.
started it. One thing I can tell you that we try to do, and that goes with Jonesy's philosophy as well, and Dan Hilferty, is, we try to be close to our players and try to be as honest as possible. Obviously, there's things that we can't say. There's GMs I've played for that you would never see. There's other GMs that you'd see them around that you could talk to. Some were kind of in between. I would say we're probably more towards being around the players and close to them. I know there's sometimes some tough decisions to be made, with some players that you have really close relationships, but that's part of the job.
Right.
We'd rather let the players know that we care about what they do and make it feel like it's a big family and they're important.
How hard has that been, making those calls or having those conversations? Because you've been on the other side of it, and you're not that you're exactly thinking about how they're going through it, but how has that been for you?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a story here that I've never really told before, but one of my first big decision was to tell Sean Couturier that he wasn't going to play at the end of the season when I think there was just a few games left, but he had trained so hard to get back after he had his back surgery. He was getting almost 2 years of not playing, and he had worked hard and put in the sweat in the gym and on the ice, and he wanted to come back to finish the season. The last few games that were left were out of the playoffs. To me, it made no sense, but I also saw the work that he had put in, and and Sean and I have a really good relationship.
Mm-hmm.
He lived with me and the kids for a couple years, but I had to go and face him and tell him, no, you're not playing, unfortunately. And I know he wasn't happy with me, and we can laugh about it now,
right.
because he was able to come back last season and he feels great. But that was the first probably big decision that I had to make a couple days into to the job. So it wasn't a fun one, but sometimes it is what it is.
I guess it's like the butterflies of like preparing for a big game or something, right? If you have a big conversation, there's probably some sort of mental prep that's required.
Yeah, and you got to be prepared to go in any different directions. You never know where it's going to go sometimes.
Yeah, oh, that's interesting. You want to talk about maybe some of the recent movement?
I was gonna say, like, one of the biggest things that everyone's talking about is obviously Matvei, calling the little guy here a magician, getting this guy over here. But in all honesty, like, we really thought like it would be 3 years. And
we did too.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's what it seemed to be, and which was fine, but to get him this early, like, I obviously, to me, I think it's only going to help him get used to this game. It's going to take time. We talked about last week, just obviously this kid, like, there's a lot of pressure being put at him, but I'm sure you guys are being like, hey, just be yourself, play your game. But it's got to be hard for a kid like him coming over.
Correct. Obviously, the expectation are very high on him. I think it's going to be a tough year for him. He's going through a lot. He has to adapt to a new continent, a new country, a new language. It's a big change for him. He's only 19 years old. Sometimes we forget that too.
Yeah.
Going into it, we thought we'd wait 3 years, but when this opportunity came, to have him right away, to get the kinks out of him right away with a coach like Torts, to show him how to be a pro, to start his career, that's what I'm excited about. Yeah. If we get him in 3 years, he's probably a little more developed, a little bit more mature, a little bit more ready, but he's still going through the phase of adapting to a new environment. So I'm glad he comes in earlier. We're not maybe quite where we're Stanley Cup contenders yet. So it gets a leg up, I feel, on developing his career under a good coaching staff and a group of players that we're developing along the way with him. So we're very excited about it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's very exciting.
How does that conversation transpire? Are you sitting in the office and your phone rings, or share what you can, but like, is it out of the blue, or was it something you're kind of working on?
Most of the conversation came through the agents. his representative, and they're the one that did most of the work in the background to make it work and bring him over here, and we were there for support and kind of decisions here and there on what would happen, but most of the work was done by his agent.
And dealing with his KHL club.
Correct.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah. So then, some bit of an easy lift. You're kind of just waiting to see what they could do, and then. Matvei
has already been through a lot in his life, some trauma there, and the team realized it, and they wanted to give him the opportunity, to come in early, and also I feel, they're working on trying to smooth out the relationships with the IIHF and the NHL too over there. So, there's a lot of those little tidbits, being talked about with the agents and the team over there.
Yeah, well, it's certainly exciting, and we've talked about this before in the pod. Like the way he's carrying himself. He said he's 19 years old, but he seems like a mature 19.
Yeah,
he seems like to be handling this scenario pretty well.
Yeah, he's pretty funny on social media. His personality has been great around the guys, and he's trying hard to speak English as much as possible. Yeah. So he's still not comfortable in having sentences, but he understands a lot of the stuff. He's been hanging out with a lot of our veterans, young veterans, guys like Forster and Farabee, York, Drysdale and company, and Delorier Hathaway have been back too. He's been really a lot of fun to have around, and he's tough to get off the ice. He wants to be on the ice constantly.
Peel him off.
So he's what we call over here. He's a rink rat. He loves being on the ice.
Good thing Joey Mullen's not still coaching here.
Yeah,
those two,
sleeping at the rink
night. They could never get him off the ice either.
Yeah, he seems to have a great sense of humor too. Like he's legitimately trying to crack jokes, and he can't even speak English. Gotta give him credit.
He's trying. He's witty. He's quick.
Yeah.
Awesome. So it's exciting. It's exciting, but at the same time, I think it's going to be a trying season, trying to get his repairs and what he can get away with in the NHL and not. And he's going to be coached hard, but he's going to learn a lot this year.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be a good thing that he doesn't understand everything. If Torch is upset, I don't think you have to know the language to know Torch is upset, but we were kind of joking about that the other day.
That vein that's popping on the side of his head might let you know that he might have made a mistake.
He'll understand the body language pretty quick.
Or I was going to say, he's having Slava, get Slav over here.
Right. Radio him in.
Tell him this. No. Another thing I wanted to ask you about was there's been a lot of talk about I don't know what you can say. If you can't, but about Kolosov on that whole situation, because we talked about it a few weeks ago, and I just said there's not a chance he was mistreated by the Flyers, and that was supposed someone just throwing that out there, obviously, but we kind of had our thoughts about it, and I said here's a kid that you would know more than me, but he's coming over from another country. He doesn't have anyone that speaks the language, but he's not being treated poorly. We all know that.
Nothing has been said directly to us. We were trying to get some answers, and again, Alexei doesn't speak English, so we can't just grab the phone and call him. And it was tough to get answers from his agent or clear answers. There's always dancing around the pot. He just changed agent in the last few days, so we were just notified of that. I don't know exactly what it means, but no, I can guarantee you he was treated really well. You just got to keep in mind it's not easy again. You come from Belarus, you come over here, you don't speak the language. Unfortunately, we didn't have any other Russian-speaking players. You're late in the season. The plan with him was just to give him the chance to come over, see what it's like, to help its transition this year. So that was the plan. It was very clear from the get-go that he was just going to play in a couple games because we didn't want to put him in a bad situation. He had played a full season already, didn't know the coaching staff, didn't know the style. And the game over here is a lot more physical, even for a goalie. So we just wanted to give him a couple games, help his transition going into this year. That was the plan all along. and we had people checking on him every day. Guys were trying to get him. He's shy. He didn't speak a lot of English. So going into the season, we wanted to help him out and put him in the best possible position to succeed this year. We're hearing all these rumors. We haven't had a full or clear answer at this point. But if he wants to play hockey, he has to come over here. He's under contract with the Flyers. He's not allowed to play anywhere else. We want him here. So we'll see. In our mind, he has to report, but obviously, kind of like everybody else, we see the report, so we're waiting to see. We've asked the agent, okay, what's going on? Can you give us an answer? We want to make sure he's coming, but we haven't had again a clear answer at this point.
Yeah. Time will tell, I guess. Show up for camp, and I guess you deal with whatever comes your way in a few weeks, I guess, right? And
correct. It's coming fast, and we'll find out relatively soon here.
Yeah. Interesting. Your most recent signing, obviously Travis Konecny. You locked that guy up. I mean, we talked about obviously.
Yeah,
he's a Flyer, competitor.
Like
yeah, exactly. And I've had the discussions with many GMs, and they're inquiring, well, what are you doing? And it's always the phrase that they would use to say, oh, we know he's a Flyer. Yeah. We can't imagine him anywhere else. Right. So look, he plays hard. He plays hard for the organization, for this city. He leaves it all on the ice, and he's still getting better. So it's exciting. I think it's great. A player like that, he's been thrust into more and more of a leadership role, along the last few years with some of the veterans moving on. So, he's a key ingredient moving forward for us. He's only 27 years old, so it's not like he's 30, 32, and he's on the decline. He's still getting better, and we're excited that it's done. It's behind him, and he can just focus on hockey now.
That was great. I was so excited.
Yeah, and I think he's got just more room for growth too. I'm not even sure if he's hit his ceiling yet. I mean, I think he just keeps proving to be better.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And where do you find players like that?
Yeah, right.
Teams that have them, they're not giving them away.
That's right.
So you got to draft them. You got to develop those players. And we're ecstatic that he wanted to stay and be willing to sign a long-term deal with us.
Yeah, that's great. And he's obviously a huge part of the leadership group. I mean, can you talk more about the leadership group in general? I mean, Coots, Lots. Obviously, there's several other guys there. Just the importance of that.
In Travis Sanheim. There's guys that are really important there too around the room. Guys like Hathaway and Delorier. We had Mark Stahl in that role last year. Now it's going to be Eric Johnson a little bit more. And you're trying to bring the young guys along. The Sealer too is another important
He's one of my favorites.
part. And then you're hoping that guys like Cam York and Drysdale take on a bigger role. Guys like Farabee and Frost, Tippett is already in that group. Forster is another important one. So I could keep going down the list. There's a lot of guys that are right on the cusp of taking on bigger and bigger leadership role. And whenever you have players leaving, like the year before, when you have guys like Kevin Hayes and JVR and Tony Giangelo moving out, some of the young guys are a step further. Sanheim and Konecny especially last year took a big step in that leadership role.
Danny, I remember years ago you were telling me, like, we'll get to your career in a few minutes, but when you started out with Phoenix, you were up and down with Springy. That was the first time I ever saw a little fella, and he lit us up. Didn't fight Frankie.
Couple nights.
Didn't fight Frankie that night, but
I turned the other way every time I saw him.
I can't even imagine.
He's too busy scoring over here.
He's scoring too many goals. But no, what I was going to say was, you had said that, like, you get called up, it's great. You get sit down, maybe your attitude wasn't as great as you thought it should be. Does that help you now? And speaking of Lawitz, it reminds me of the year he went down for a full season and had the right attitude. But does that help you learn from when you were younger as a GM to sit a guy down? Like, hey, I got to sit you down, but look.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's and I look back. That's one of the area that I'm disappointed in how I handled it. Early on in my career, looking back, up to that point, I had never really faced a lot of obstacle. I went every level. I just kept going up, and juniors to the American League, or drafted to the American League, and then to the NHL. I was just, that's how it's supposed to be. Right. And all of a sudden, you hit the wall, and they're sending you down. Looking back, it wasn't probably the best way to handle it. Pouting a little bit, feeling sorry for yourself. Definitely, it helps me now, and I've had the discussions with Morgan Frost when I was working in player development, and he was going back and forth a couple times. We had the same discussion, not last season, the season before, with Cam York, and we talked about that probably last week. How he had a great attitude. He wasn't happy, right? But he went back to Lehigh Valley. I think he spent 2.5 months there, but really he put in the work, and he left it all out there, and he was back in the NHL, and he said, that was really helpful. I realize now how important it was for me to go back to the minors, play a lot of minutes, and then when he came back, now there's no looking back anymore. He's part of the core moving forward for us. So it helps, but I'm still a little flustered in how I handled myself in that situation.
You're also a kid, and I think anyone's going to be disappointed at that. I know what you're saying, though, but it's good that you did go through that, because as a GM now, like you just said, it helps. And it makes me think of Riles was, battling, trying to get to the NHL, and the year he made the team out of camp after 3 games. I think our last game was in New York, and I'm in the truck heading back to me and Harry are driving back to the zone with the gear, and Homer calls me and he says, "Hey, just letting you know, I talked to Riles already, but he's going to where the hell were you sent to? You didn't play in Lehigh." No. When you got sent down that time.
It was the Phantoms.
It was the Phantoms, but was it in Adirondack or Philly? It was Philly. He's like, yeah, and I was like, oh, all right. And I was like so disappointed, right? He's my guy. So I hang up, and then next morning, Homer and I were early. We were in the hot tub there, and he says, "You okay?" And I said, "Wait, yeah, why?" He says, "You were more upset than Riley was when I told him he was going down." I said, "Well, goddamn it." Well,
I was used to the adversity. So I was just another day at the office. When you score 480 points,
you knew how to handle it already.
I was like expecting it or something, But I can imagine if it's your first time really facing adversity in your craft.
Yeah.
I mean, being disappointed is one thing, but like you don't really know how to handle the situation. How can you have that experience?
Yeah, and you still see it all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
The guys that have gone through adversity early, before they get to the NHL or early in their career, usually they're more equipped. They're better equipped to handle setbacks or things that don't go your way.
Yeah. Right. Because I wouldn't say very few guys, but you're probably in a specific bracket of players that can go a certain length of your career without really ever being cut or ever probably being benched or scratched, because there's obviously elite players.
You just never know.
You never know.
And at the time you don't know, right? When you're 20, 21 years old and you're being sent down, you just think it's the end of the world and your career's over.
Right.
So it was
those 480 points in juniors or in 3 years.
They don't matter anymore.
They don't matter. That 96 points in the American League don't matter, But
It's crazy.
But it's perspective, right? When you're like living in that bubble, you like.
You're so right.
Yeah, you're just like the perspective is off, obviously.
Yeah. And that's what I deal with a lot today. As a player, everything is geared for today. How can I be the best that I can be today? I don't care about what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't even think about that. You come into the rink, and I remember being so focused, especially when I was starting in Phoenix, coming into the rink, and you walk into the locker room and you look at the board, like, where am I today? Mm-hmm. Am I on the second line? Am I on the fourth line? Am I an extra? Am I on the power play, or am I off the power play now? And your world revolves around that every single day, and you don't care about 2 days down the road, a week, whatever. Yeah. It's all about this. And then now, in this role as a GM, it's about, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years down the road. So you got to keep an open mind when, a player is struggling for a couple games and you send him down. And I try to understand that in his world, it's the end of it, because he's so focused.
Yeah, that's right.
But you're doing it for a reason. You're doing it because you want him to regain the confidence and, feel good about his game so he can come back and help you. But it's totally different.
Yeah, when you're in it, you're just like, your world is just you, and you can't really see anybody else's perspective. Certainly not the general manager's perspective.
Absolutely
how they see
not.
that.
It's too far removed.
Too far removed. Yeah. How do the conversations go? Like, are you a little bit more compassionate towards the player when you're like sending them down? Are you like transparent with like 100% transparency, or is there a little bit of like a tough, not tough love? But
the one thing I do remember is when you're being told in the moment, like for me anyway, the world shuts down.
Yeah.
It's all dark. You start thinking about all kinds of things. You don't hear anything.
Charlie Brown.
There's some noise, but you don't hear anything. So, when I tell them, I usually try to set a conversation for a day or two later to catch up. And
smart.
When they can have the chance to get their bearings together, and so they can kind of clearly hear you when what you have to tell them.
Yeah, and that's super powerful. That would never happen back in the day. The fact that you actually care that much, that you could essentially care about the players' feelings, right? Because they do have feelings. Obviously, in business, it's like, okay, well, like feelings don't matter, but they do, because they're important. But the fact that you give space like that, let the guys stew on it a little bit.
You want to, because we all care for the players.
Of course,
how it is. So you want to try to put them in the best position. And I know it's not fun to hear that in the moment. 2 days later or a day later, you can explain why and the reasoning. And I still remember when we went through it with Cam York. In the moment he was livid. You could see in his face he wasn't happy. I was in the room when Chuck told him, and actually Torts was in there too. And he was completely closed out. And then I was able to catch up with him a couple of days later in Lehigh Valley, in completely different attitude. And he was able, and he was really impressive how he handled it, and was able to work his way back up and be a force in the same season to come back to Philly and open everybody's eyes to say, wow, he put in the work. So
that's
was
great.
good.
Yeah, the attitude is so important. Hey, how you take things, not what happens, how you take it.
I was gonna ask.
It's not easy.
No, it's not.
I can imagine. It'd be tough. I was gonna ask you. We talked a little bit about Homer. Have you practiced at all, or ever thought about grabbing a stick and going in the room? Because I played golf with Chief last week, and somehow we were talking about Homer, and he's played pickleball in the room, and Mario there, and Homer. I don't know. I'm sure you know because you see him at the games. But I walked into Riles. I think we were together. But I walked into a game, and I'm up in the suite there, alumni. And he's got a cut across his face. I said, what are you tillying it? Are you chucking him? Or is you playing Clarkie's basketball league again? Or what are we doing here? And he goes, playing pickleball. And I'm like, you got in a fight? He goes, no, I hit myself. I started to lose. Like, you hit yourself. I missed the ball, I hit myself. But I was going to say, if you thought about grabbing a stick, but Chief and I were talking about it. And Chief, I can't remember the player he said it was, but he said one night Homer came in, and when they were playing in the Spectrum, and he had a stick in his hand. And I feel like I don't know if it was Doug Crossman, but whoever it was a D, and they always put their helmet down, and he came in with a stick, and he said they just slowly got their helmet.
Slid that thing on.
Helmet on. And
he was scared.
Oh, man.
The shrapnel.
Yeah, whenever he walked in with a stick, you knew you were in trouble. I have to come clean. I might have done it once in Maine.
All right.
But I'm sure I wasn't as scary as Homer. And I know
you got the same intensity.
I know some of the guys were making fun of that after the season.
That's great.
No,
I
don't plan.
Stick?
I tried. I tried and I couldn't do it.
It's like one of those like bending over the legs. But
no, I'm probably gonna stay away from that. I don't think anybody can do the way Homer was doing it. And I remember I was on the receiving end of it one time, and it was one of probably the 10 scariest moment of my life when I had the stick right up under my throat. So. That was something else.
Yeah,
he came in one night when I was with the Phantoms. I think it was my last year. It might have been the lockout year, first year, and you guys would come into the locker room and hand me your sticks, and I'd put them in order and get them ready to leave. And door flew open, and I went like this, and just right out of my hand, that stick came, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go hide in my jersey room because I didn't know. I'm like, whose is it? I hope it's not Yoni Pickenen's, because he didn't let anybody touching his sticks.
Can't touch Pitsy's stick.
But I want to talk a little bit about your career. We could keep you here all day, but I know
we're having fun.
You're busy. I know you're busy. I guess I kind of want to start off just asking you. You got into hockey. Your parents were unbelievable and built like a rink. And I know you said they spent a lot of time maintaining that. It wasn't that easy, and they spent a lot of time doing that for you.
Yeah, they would build the rink, and it was a lot of hours. Some nights, my parents staying up to get the base going, and my dad would wake up early to take care of it before he went to work. I would skate a little bit before going to school. My mom would make sure in the afternoon that there's another layer of fresh ice ready to go for after school, and then we'd play right from school. I'd rush to get my homework done, back on the ice, and then I'd come in, go to bed, and my dad would be going back out to make sure, again, fix all the holes and another layer of fresh ice, and then redo it the next morning. So I was very fortunate, and I think a lot of the kids in the neighborhood were also very fortunate because they could come in and skate as well and take advantage of it. So we were lucky.
Do you well, maybe you can't answer this necessarily, but like when you get reps like that, and it's pond hockey.
Yeah.
I mean, the creativity's through the roof, right? There's no structure and rigidness. Like looking back, if you were to
I think the combination of both. So the combination of the free ice, like you said, using your creativity to do whatever and just skating and playing for fun, and then organized hockey. The combination of both, I think, really helped. Because you get a structure, you know what it is to play within a team concept and following rules and system.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, also letting yourself go and just play and, sometimes not think on the ice when things develop.
And having no repercussions, you can do whatever you want, and there's no one's gonna sit you. And
Correct.
It's like you're just playing absolutely free as you can.
Yeah.
And then you said you go into organized hockey, and then it's obviously structured, but you're able to bring a lot
of
those
elements. And it's to try to combine the controlled chaos that the hockey game is. You have the chaos from the freewheeling and the control part with the system work, and it's I call it controlled chaos. Playing hockey.
And then you must have known as early as you started playing that you were special, that you had to have been.
Absolutely not.
No,
no. As far as for me, I was always the smallest on the team. So I played. I was a decent player. I could get points here and there, but it's not like I was, going all over the ice. I kind of made my way, and I was a decent player. But in my mind, it was always, I'm too small to, play hockey for a career. And all of a sudden,
is that because you're being told that?
Part of it, yes. And part of it was, seeing everybody around you being bigger, stronger. Honest, So, when contact started, I still remember I had a discussion with my dad. We were driving to practice, and my dad grabbed me and he says, how do you feel about playing contact hockey? And I looked at him and was like, why? He says, are you okay, going in the corners, taking body checks? And I said, I'll find out. I don't know. And then it was, playing U16 and then being drafted in the Quebec League again pretty early. Am I going to be able to play? I'll probably be able to play, but I don't know if I'm going to be a dominant player, and then able to get to that level and survived still with the same style. And then you get drafted. I didn't think I would go in the first round. The Coyotes took a chance with a late first on me. And then it's, everybody would tell you, well, wait till you get to the American League. You know? It's tough to play in the jungle. You're not going to survive the jungle.
Right.
And then, okay, so it was always like, I didn't know. It was step by step until you make it.
Right. So it sounds like that doubt kind of maybe got in the way of you maybe believing early on that you could actually play in the NHL, like to some degree.
Yeah, and at times it's probably hurt me too.
Right.
So when I got to the NHL, I didn't know. I was looking around. I have Keith Tkachuk and Jeremy Roenick and Rick Tocchet sitting beside me. I'm like, what am I doing here?
Yeah, right.
I don't belong with these guys. I've been watching these guys since I'm little on TV, and now I'm sitting. I don't belong here. It's not normal. So I think that's probably hurt me early in my career, not having that swagger or confidence that I belong there. But at the same vein, it's like I realized that I had to do more. I always had to do a little bit more to get by and to survive in that world.
You were a pretty hard player for a small guy. Like I remember, you're greasy, borderline. Some would argue a little dirty at times. but I mean, all jokes aside, like you played with a chip on your shoulder.
Yeah.
And when has that always been part of your game based on that?
I think it part of it was me being afraid to be cataloged as a soft, skilled player only.
Yeah.
Right. Like it was. I wanted to show that, I care, and if you want to take advantage of me, I might not be able to drop the gloves and beat you up, but I'll find a way to let you know that I'm not just going to take it for fun.
Yeah, right.
So that was my mentality. I didn't want to be. In my mind, I was like almost too soft, and I hated that feeling. I didn't want to be a soft player, and you know how it is sometimes when with the skill guys, especially when you're smaller. I was terrified of being known as just a soft player.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Well, I was gonna say, you were saying that like you get the juniors, you play 198 games and you have 416 points. Like that first year, were you like, okay, did it at least start clicking in your head? Like, I had a year like this, I'm getting these points, and you're playing against older kids too. It's, And
I didn't play at 16, so I started my junior career at 17.
Right.
And because I was late birthday, it wasn't my draft year. So that gave me an extra year to feel better. But going into it, no, I didn't think I would have the type of season that I did as a rookie in the Quebec League that first year.
Well, Lappy did want us to note that he did have 140 points one year.
In 60 games.
In 60 games. He won't let us forget that ever. But it was funny you just brought up Springfield. When guys said to you, wait till you get there, it was nuts then. Like, I remember your rookie. I remember the first time I saw you, the old goat, Ralphie, in Springfield, the equipment guy who's been there forever. I remember I used to always, I'm a bit of a hockey nerd, so I was always looking at the pamphlets they put in the morning, and I see Daniel Briere is leading the team. He's a rookie. Well, he's a rookie. He's leading the scoring. So I go down and I'm say, right, hey, who's this Briere? Like, he's like, oh, he's talented. Wait, you see this kid, blah, blah, blah. Not very big, but this and that. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I see you out there warm-ups. I'm like, this guy, he looks like he's 25 now. You imagine when he was 19 or 20? He looked like he was 14. And he was like, he got to skate with the big boys. And then he let us up.
Oh, yeah,
like I said.
I remember looking over and seeing Frankie
Bailois
and thinking okay, I got to stay away from this guy.
Oh, my God. I think, who did you guys have it tough? This Gagnon? How do you say his name?
Gagnon, Sean Gagnon.
Yes.
And that's where I was very fortunate coming in my first year, because I didn't know. The jungle is scary. And they had signed, because I barely spoke any English when I turned pro. They had signed Martin Simard, veteran guy, very tough winger, and they parked him right beside me in the locker room. We also had Scott Levens. We had Rob Murray as our captain. And Rob Murray wasn't the biggest guy, but
you talk about
wasn't afraid of anybody.
This guy. Oh,
and Frankie LaRue, Sean Gagnon that you mentioned. Scott Levins, I played on the same line as him, and if someone just looked at me the wrong way, he would skate over.
I had Levi in Florida my first year in hockey. Scotty Levins was with us.
And so I was very fortunate early on to have all those guys around, being able to go freely on the ice and not be afraid to be taken advantage of.
Puff your chest a little more, hey?
Oh, yeah.
A little more
You
swagger.
feel a little bigger,
there,
a little stronger.
Well, you ended up that first year. You ended up with 92 points.
Not bad.
In the American League, not bad. Hey, you brought up the locker room and some of the guys you're looking at in Phoenix with Talk and JR and those guys. And was that your was that moment where you're like, wow, I'm like in here with these guys I've been watching since I was a kid, and how entertaining was it with JR and Tkachuk?
It was very entertaining. I have to admit, there's a lot of stories that I can't tell.
Exactly.
It was something else, and the locker room that we have, even looking back at some of the veterans like Teppo Numminen was there with Dallas Drake, Bobby Corkum, Mike Stapleton, Greg Adams, Cliff Ronning. I could go on and on. Like it was pretty impressive. Sean Burke was around. Robert Esch. Our boy Chico, he's not afraid to speak his mind either.
He is not.
So and a funny story with that too. And I show up at training camp. Robert and I are drafted in the same year. And you know Chico. Chico's he's a redneck. He's the first one to admit it, right? He's not afraid of it. And we show up, and he put us in the same room. We're roommate in my first camp. So, now I laugh now looking back, because he's probably thinking, I have the little freaking French kid that doesn't speak English with me. I'm going to give it to him. So in practice, I shoot one high, a little too high, and he comes after me. And that was one of my first camp, and he jumped on me. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to defend myself, but I just tried to hold on to him. So it's pretty funny. And Chico and I became great friends after that. I think he respected me because I would give it back to him. And we became great friends, and he's made a great career as well. Still in management now.
I know. He's done a hell of a job there,
with
too.
Utica, so very proud of him.
Oh, yeah, I was just joking about just whizzing another one past his ears,
After that, when I'd get mad at him, I would go back and just get one close to his ears to get him riled
send
up.
the message,
Yeah.
keep him on his toes.
And Sean Burke didn't like the high shots either.
No.
So we had to keep him pretty low.
Berkey's pretty jacked too for a goalie. He was a big guy. I mean, I think he still is, obviously, but. So you spent almost like five seasons, I think 5 years with Phoenix. With Phoenix,
mostly in the minors.
Yeah.
Until my last year, maybe year and a half.
Yeah.
But even I never felt like I was established.
Okay.
With the Coyotes, it was always a battle to just fight to stay in the lineup, and never felt like. You can go into the rink and not be nervous about where I'm going to be, and feel, okay, I can just focus on training and getting ready for the next game. Is always that extra layer of stress to stay in the lineup.
Do you think that was Shoney? And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, as a coach, as a big guy, he was a rough and tough guy, and like you said, you weren't the biggest guy, and you were playing in it. Let's make that. You played in a tough time. Like the game was hard.
Oh yeah.
And you played and obviously flourished. But
I think I had Shoney for I believe the first 2 years, and then it was Bobby Francis.
Okay, it was Bobby Francis.
Yeah. It was Shoney and Torts, actually.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so that was
Reunited.
interesting too. Their relationship between the two of them. There were some doozies there too with some of the meetings, and some of the stuff you can't say on air. But
exactly.
It was quite something, and and I look back, and most of it was my fault. Like I just wasn't performing to the standard that we're expecting at that time, until I got traded, and it just kind of came together in Buffalo and clicked when I got there.
I guess that's when you really kind of broke broke through, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Right? Just kind of found yourself.
And it was funny there. There's my first game in Buffalo. Lindy Ruff put me on a line with J.P. Dumont because of we had grown up together, we never played on the same team in juniors, but we knew each other really well, all the all-star games and stuff like that. So he says, you guys know each other, and then we'll put Jochen Hecht with you guys, a big German. And Jochen loved playing down low in a defensive zone. He just didn't like taking face-offs. So it worked perfectly. I said, you can go back and play defense in the zone as much as you want. I'll take the face-offs.
That's it.
So there was instant chemistry between the two of us, and that was the best feeling in the world. Playing with those two guys and having chemistry right off the get-go.
And then you kind of started feeling that, I don't want to say safety, but like that security, that thing you're talking about.
I think the confidence.
The confidence,
the confidence grew, and all of a sudden, I'm not looking around, wondering if I fit in. It was like, okay, it's my turn now to be a difference maker. Now I had Chris Drury that came in as a teammate, and I learned a lot from him too. Just the stuff that he was talking about. He was a lot more experienced from an early age with moments of pressure. He would always talk about how to attack pressure, and it was so interesting. I love talking to him about that stuff. And a lot of guys are afraid when the big moment comes. And he says, for me, I want to be the guy that's going to take the last shot and make the last play. He says, I feel that the big moments they're waiting for me. It's just a different mindset.
It probably didn't hurt being in the Little League World Series.
Exactly. I'm sure.
I'm
sure a lot of it started there, and he was comfortable in those moments, and it really helped me sharing that with him. Not being afraid of the big moment, not being afraid of the pressure time, and believing that it was meant for you. That a game goes to overtime, or that you get a shootout shot, late in the game to be a difference maker. So it's pretty interesting mindset that he has, and really helped me in my career.
Yeah, I was going to say carried over.
Yeah, I was going to say it definitely carried over, especially you guys were good in Buffalo. I remember more so the last year before you came here, you guys had a really good team.
Yeah, the last 2 years.
Yeah, you guys were really good.
Yeah, to the conference final.
But once you got here, you just were kind of a big game player, and especially playoffs. That's what everybody calls you, Mr. Playoffs around here. But it's funny you say that because Drew, that's how he was. And and you start believing that too, and the confidence grows, and then all of a sudden those moments come, and you feel more and more comfortable. It's like the first time that it happens. I still remember playing for Team Canada. I think it was at the World Championship, and we're playing in the championship game against Sweden. I think the year was 2002. And I remember that day I was so nervous the whole day. It was early in my career. I was 24 years old, and the whole day I was nervous about the game. Everybody in Canada is going to be watching, representing my country. And I was so excited. I couldn't sleep the afternoon, just wired up. We get to the rink, the meetings, and go on the ice for a warm-up. I'm flying around like I'm feeling great. And we come back after the warm-up, and I sit in the room. I take my top off, and I sit there, and all of a sudden, whew, and it hit me. And I was completely gassed. I had played the game before the game.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So
that was Riles after kickball.
Right. So that was that was one of my first big moment in the spotlight, and I learned a lot from it. Just try to save yourself and be ready for the moment when it arrives, rather than before.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it's a powerful message. It's hard for people. I think it's easy for them to understand because it's a mindset, but it's hard to practice, right? It takes a different level.
And you need the experience. You need to live it to get more and more comfortable in those moments.
Right. Yeah, thinking and experience and doing is really where the confidence builds, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I was going to ask you about the year you signed as a free agent with the Flyers. We went from the worst team in the league, and it was the worst record ever in Flyers history. I think it was the 40th season actually that year. But Homer made some unbelievable moves. He gets you in, obviously, Kimo Hartsey, traded for Loops.
Jason Smith.
Gator, and we had the Legion of Poon with up here with the boys. We already had, I asked John Leclerc about that. I was like, did you know there was a Legion of Poon after you? He goes, I did not. But anyway, no, but it was it was unbelievable, the change and the team and like the attitude,
the
around.
energy, yeah, right.
Even Junkyard, we got Jimmy Dowd, and what a beauty Junkyard was.
Yeah.
Just everything folded up.
Oh yeah,
never had to touch
yeah.
anything.
He was a pro.
But it was such a great year, and it was so much fun. And we get to that. I'll never forget Loops' big goal. Poor guy couldn't put one in an ocean, and in Game 7, the puck comes right to his stick. But I just want to talk about that real quick. It was just one of my favorite memories winning that game. And you were obviously on the ice for that, and you were one of the first guys to get to him. But it was just one of the coolest things.
Yeah. And it was funny, right? Because that series at first, nobody knew. Like, the Capitals were supposed to win. They were a little better. And then all of a sudden we're up 3-1 in that series. And it's like, wow, Flyers are giving it to them. And they win Game 5 and 6. And I still remember Game 6 and 7 were on back-to-back. And you don't see that very often in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And it was probably the best thing for us because we didn't have to think too long about what had happened and blowing up the 3-1 lead. Right. We could go back into Game 7 on the road where we don't have to play a fancy game. We can just, keep it simple, wait for our chances. And it was pretty amazing. It was one of the best moments. You get to a Game 7 in overtime. That's the best feeling, especially when you win it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it was one of the best, 3 seconds. I remember Loops scoring and looking through the glass and seeing the face of the fans, just devastated. I shouldn't cheer for that, but seeing that it was such a great moment when it happened.
I've watched that video of that goal probably 500 times. I just love it. That was a fun team. That was a fun year. It was a fun year.
Because it was unexpected too.
Right.
I
mean, we ended up in the conference finals that year with a ton of injuries, though. Like, I'm not saying we would have won, but you just never know. We had a lot of injuries that hit us that year.
But that was my first year too, and with the Flyers in the NHL. But like that energy around the city was kind of what I felt like these last couple of years. Well, since you guys have taken over, and the energy has shifted. In the locker room, obviously, the attitude, just the identity, but the city itself, and that was when I think of that year.
I can't wait for our players to experience playoff hockey in Philadelphia. That's what I remember some of the young guys talking about how cool the game against the Rangers was last year. There was a home game, afternoon game when Rempe and D'Lo ended up fighting. That game was amazing, but everybody was so fired. I mean, we ended up losing in overtime, but even the guys were saying the energy was so amazing. And I was telling them, I said, guys, if you think that's something, wait till you play in the playoffs. There's nothing that compares to it. So I can't wait for our team to get there.
The city is going to be buzzing.
I mean, they're buzzing now.
They're buzzing now. They're rallying for sure. But it's next level.
Yeah, you're right. I did want to bring up really quick Marty Biron, one of your good friends and friends of ours as well. And I got to see him this year. Elvis had a tournament in Buffalo, and Marty, I'm like, hey, I just want to say hi. And he's like, I'll come down in between during the third. I'm like, aren't you working? Yeah, it's okay, though. It's okay. I'm like, oh, okay. So anyway, I remember the one time we were in Atlanta and Eric Bolton's playing for the Thrashers. And me and you, we kind of go out. And we're just, you weren't supposed to go on the bench when the other team's doing the morning skate. I don't know if that's still a thing. But Marty's standing there, and Bolton's like standing on the wall, like waiting to go through a drill. And Marty goes, hey, Bolts. And he's like, hey, Marty. And he goes, see this guy? And Bolts, it's like kind of uncomfortable. He sees Riley. He goes, hey, what's up? And Riley's like, hey, what's up? He goes, he's the guy you got to fight tonight. And Riley's like, oh, fuck.
Thanks, Marty. You're like, Bolts.
I don't know what you didn't know already. But Bolton goes, I don't want to fight anybody if I don't have to. And he goes, I don't either. Fuck you, Marty. It was so funny, though. Marty just
teeing it up,
there. Marty was one of the best teammates.
He really was.
One of the best roommate as well. There's and what I love about Marty too is, I mean, we joke that he's always talking. He never shuts up,
Right.
But it's always positive.
It is. It really is.
So he always has something positive to say. He's always laughing. So it's refreshing.
That's it. Yeah, that's
is.
why it looks well on him, and it works well for him.
Yeah.
Because if he was a negative, no one would want to be around him.
JP Dumont would always tell him, he's like, Marty, you're the best backup in the NHL. That was always his line, because Marty was such a positive guy with everybody.
Yeah, right.
So
you could hear him down the hall every day, with the tape around
Oh,
his
yeah.
ankles.
Yeah,
the
Same
full
skates
roll.
for 20 years, like pants, just cheating like crazy with those pants.
He might have been the one guy that looked younger than you when he was drafted.
He might have weighed less than you, and he's 6 foot.
Like $150 with that big hat, that draft hat.
Did he weigh $150? I don't know if he did.
Maybe not
Maybe
either.
not
Maybe
even that
$140.
much.
I don't think he did.
I don't think he's able to put up the bar. I heard in the combine. Remember the 135?
what a great guy.
He's amazing.
Awesome guy.
Yeah.
He's the best. He is
Yeah,
the best.
you don't find a better teammate.
He's great. Kind of moving on to the last year you played in 2010, us going on that unbelievable run, and just kind of want to start by talking about, well, that was a great year for one. Obviously, we did the outdoor game. Unfortunately, we lost in overtime. I was lucky enough to do the Olympics that year with Team USA, which we lost in the gold medal game to Canada. Cheers. Kidding. But we go on this run, and I look back, and Riley and I have talked about this before. Like, if you look at that lineup we had, how did we have to get in on the last day of the season? But what I wanted to say was, you were talking a few minutes ago about those big moments. Here you are going first, and you got to shoot out against the king, and what a huge goal you and Claude obviously get the 2 goals. But just wanted to talk about that a little bit.
I love talking about it because Torts hates that moment so much.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
But it was. What's still amazing to this day is the Rangers were probably the best shootout team in the league. They had the best shootout goalie.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
With Hank back there, and he's the one goalie that I always struggled with. So now I have to face him in a shootout. We had done our research. We were prepared for him. I think Lavi had be able to see that possibly this game could end up in a shootout. So he had us do a little extra work to get ready for a shootout, and it paid off.
Yeah.
And the Flyers were probably one of the worst team in a shootout, especially that year. So to come through in a win in a shootout on game 82, whoever wins gets to the playoffs,
crazy,
whoever loses
right?
goes home. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Talking about drama.
Yeah.
I stepped on the ice, and for a second, I still remember skating towards the center of the ice and thinking, "Oh boy, there's a lot of money on the line here."
Yeah, right.
So,
that's true.
Yeah, and then I was ready to go, and my mind wasn't in the right place. And I remember taking an extra loop and going back, veering across the bench all the way to the glass to just refocus and get the bad thoughts out of my head. This is not about it. Like, you see the net, just put it in the net. You've practiced your move. You know what you have to do. You know what Lundqvist is going to do. Just hit the spot. So I started, just changing the mindset because I wasn't in the right place when that first game.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah, and again the moment when Bush makes the save.
Oh yeah, incredible.
It was.
He had to throw Hanks.
Oh yeah, there's a little shove there.
Yeah, for sure. But I was going to say quickly, anytime you ever took, like, you had to go do a shootout, did you already know what you were going to do, or because you made some dirty moves and scored some goals, or was it like, I'm going to wait and see what the goalie's doing?
A little bit of both. So
okay.
I always had 2 or 3 moves in mind. So I would look at videos of the goalie, shootout videos before the game, and then I would try to prepare myself with 3 options, and then sometimes just 2, depending on what the goalie was doing. And then coming down, part of it was a feeling, part of it was how far out the goalie would come, the angle that were attacking me from, and where I was coming from. And so I had option 1, option 2, and then sometimes option 3, but I don't remember going there very often.
Mine's option 1. I usually kill the logo.
What strategy?
We all know my strategy. I can't even get there.
No read and react there.
But back to that year, it was one of my favorite years I ever had in hockey. We always talk about it, but that Boston series, being down 3-0, everyone's counting you out. But I just remember you guys having this feeling in the room after we're down 3-0, like it just didn't seem like it was over. Yeah. And the way you guys were talking, I just remember like that series probably could have been 2-1 our way. At the least 1-2.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. I say that all the time, just like that. I agree with you.
It could have been either way, but it wasn't. And then game 4, if I'm not mistaken, they get a late goal to tie it. Now you're like, oh, fuck. Like, here we go. Yeah. And
I remember after game 3, we were sitting in that lounge in the locker room, like looking around, and kind of the same thoughts were, how are we down 3-0? We've played way better than that. We don't deserve to be. Right. And if you remember, was it that game or game 4 that Krejci ended up breaking his wrist? I think it was game 3. And it was almost like, okay, there's a break for us.
Right.
No pun intended. But and then I think Gaggy was just about to come back too. Right. So you're flipping one of their top player out and then bringing one of our top player. And so there's a shift there. And I remember thinking, we're going to win game 4 at home just because we don't want to be embarrassed and be swept at home. So I think we're going to win game 4. To me, the toughest game was going to be game 5 because they go back home. They don't want to come back to Philly.
Right.
Game 6, we'll be back at home in our fans, and now the excitement and the pressure will start shifting. And game 7, who knows what's going to happen. But game 5 is the one game that we don't talk enough about.
Right.
We ended up winning, I want to say 4-1 or 5-1.
Yeah,
it was one of our best games.
Yeah, I think Gags
in
had
the
2
playoffs.
goals that game as well.
That to me was such an important game. First of all, because we showed them, when we turned it on, we could.
Right.
And now all of a sudden the pressure started shifting.
Yeah.
Big time on their shoulders.
And you get to game 7. We were already down 3-0. Now we're down 3-0 in the game.
Yeah.
And obviously that timeout. Epic timeout. Just get one, and we get a break there. You're talking about breaks. We got a break with JVR's blistering shot that hit us, broke a stick, and but it was a huge goal because now you go in. I think you guys are pissed off.
Yes.
After the first period, you guys are like, "What the fuck are we doing?" It was
so quiet in that room. And looking back now, if you think about it, we were down 3-0 in the series. We'd come back. It's 3-3. We were down 3-0 in this game. Now we were coming back. It's 3-1. But we didn't kind of feel that on our side. I think they felt it.
Yeah.
But we were everybody was so livid. Everybody was sitting there just livid at themselves for giving up the 3-0 lead early in the first period. And we scored 3-2. We scored 3-3. We came back after the second period, and it was a party.
It was different. It was
like we just knew it. And you looked at them, like every time they had the puck, they were fumbling it. They were afraid. Nobody wanted to make plays on their end. Yep. Understandably so. There's so much pressure on them. We just knew we had them when we came back after the second period. It was 3-3.
You scored a tying goal, but if I'm not mistaken, Hartnell scored an unbelievable angle on the back. I think it was a backhand shot. It was a sick goal. And then we thought Ash had scored. I remember AP saying they reviewed it, and AP's like, I saw an angle and that puck is in, but we don't count it. But then you come right back in to wrap around, and now, like you said, it's 3-3, and anything can happen.
Momentum was coming.
And Gags just what a shot to just buried it.
Yeah,
kind of like Riggs. And
that was one of my most memorable fun times where. Playing, I talked about JP Dumont and Jochen Ash and the chemistry, but the chemistry that I was fortunate to live through playing with Hartnell and Ville Leino was amazing.
I was going to bring that up.
And it was one of the ugliest line that you could put together, but it just worked.
But it worked,
it
did.
The one thing I noticed, Danny, tell me if I'm wrong, like it was funny, like because Ville, we barely saw anything of him. He practiced.
Oh yeah,
like,
he was
practicing with you guys.
Yeah.
And I think Gags got hurt, Jeff got hurt, Carter got hurt. So
Lappy.
Yeah, lap too, lap with the face.
Yeah.
And now he gets put in the lineup, and it was like, and we asked Ville the same thing when he was on, but he's just like, you obviously you're a very intelligent hockey player, but like you guys just seem to know where each other was going to be. Like he said that he's like, if I give it to Danny, he knows if I'm open or he's going to shoot and score, or I'm looking to dish more. But
and Ville would say, when I have it, usually you come and you work close with your partner on a line and on a cycle, and he would tell me, he's like, no, if I have it, even if there's 2 or 3 guys on me, disappear. Go find an open spot somewhere around the net. I'll come out with it and I'll find you. Now, it didn't happen every single time. When it did, Hartsey or I would be all alone somewhere by the net. Yeah. He was so strong on the puck, and Hartsey brought us, I don't think we give Hartsey enough credit for how smart he was as a hockey player too. And we joke around with him because he's big and he'd do the dirty work for us, but he was a smart hockey player. He knew how, you look at how he's played with Klyr Rum for so many years. He has a knack for playing with skilled players because he knows where to go. So we were lucky to have him too.
It was so crazy how that worked. It worked so well. It wasn't like it just, it kind of works. It worked.
I laughed. I came in the room that morning, and I had played on the wing the whole year because we had Richard, Carter, Giroux in the middle. I had played on the wing the whole year, and then Carter got hurt, and a few others, and I came in the room, and it was like Lavi had put all the balls together and pulled a number, and like, all right, these guys are going together. And Ville, I remember Cato saying he's the best shinny hockey he's ever seen.
A lot of 2-pass. We got them all primed up, ready to go.
So he says, let's give him a try.
I'm not sure it had quite the same effect.
It may not have worked just as well. I remember Ville set a record for a rookie. The scoring, and I'm standing there. I always stood beside Lavi, and God, I wish I could repeat some of the it's just funny stuff, but you can't. But he says to me, they announce it. Lou Nolan announces it. He just set a record rookie score. I think he passed Proppy, if I'm not mistaken. But Ville stands up and he's the European thing where you haven't really seen that, and all you guys are making fun of him because he's clapping to the crowd. But Lavi, I'm clapping. Oh fuck, that's awesome. And Lavi goes, isn't he 30? And I said, I don't think he's that old.
I remember that year when he didn't want to be known as a rookie because he was older, right?
Yeah.
And all the rookies were trying to get him on their group, so they were always on his case. Yeah. So it was Ryan Parent, Pausy,
Pausy
G, and they were always on his case, and they would get him upset. So
he was easy. He was easy to get going.
So I had to step in, and I made a rule that they weren't allowed to make Ville upset on game day. So on off days, they could go after him and get him upset. But on game days, he was off limits. They weren't allowed to talk to him anymore because he would just get so riled up and mad before the game started.
That's so good. That's leadership right there.
That is leadership.
I needed my winger to be ready.
He's
have him
so
all disheveled
rattled
before the games in his own head.
That's funny.
He was a beauty.
Funny.
I miss Billy.
I do too. Yeah. He's a good man. He's doing great though. His Billy Beano stuff.
Oh yeah.
He was fun to play with.
It was fun to watch. I'll tell you that.
Talk about some of the coaches you played for. I mean, you had a pretty significant amount of coaches over the years. Patrick Waugh, Michel Therrien.
I forgot to mention.
Obviously, Lavi, Johnny.
Did play in Montreal and your last year in Colorado, which I didn't mention, but.
Yeah, I played with some pretty well-established coaches. Even when I started with Shoney and Torts on his coaching staff. Yeah. Torts was young at the time, but. Shoney was pretty established, impressive guy. Lindy Ruff in Buffalo.
He's back.
He's back in Buffalo.
Fifth time? No, I'm kidding. Third.
Really enjoyed, Lindy and coming here, Johnny Stephen was really good. I mean, how many cups has he won too?
I know, right?
Very great student of the game. And then Lavi came in, and I really enjoyed Lavi because of all the motivation speeches that
How good was he
had.
at that? He was so good at that.
So I had my run-ins with Mike in Montreal, but everything's all good now.
Smoothed it over.
We worked on it when he was coaching here in Philly.
Right. Yeah.
And then my year with Colorado was interesting with Patrick, a coach that shows a lot of passion and for the game, for his players. It was a blast playing for him. Really enjoyed Patrick also.
Oh, yeah.
I remember you coming in with Colorado, and I was obviously still working, and you had the boys down to meet again. Must have been pretty cool. I know he was winding down as well, but that must have been pretty cool playing with a guy like that.
Oh yeah.
Like
Jerome,
that guy.
he was sitting beside me in the locker room, and it's a little bit like playing, maybe not quite the same, but pretty close to Yags when we had Yags here in Philly. You know you're playing with a legend of the game. That's kind of how it felt playing with Jerome in Colorado. That was pretty cool.
That would have to be cool. Speaking of playing with Yags, that year 2012 was a really fun year. We had Briz, we had Briz to deal with daily, but he was good to me, and he made me laugh every day because the shit.
Entertaining.
He was very, very entertaining. But that series, we had Briz on, and we were talking about it. He was just like, that was so much fun. What did he say? Neither one of us could stop a puck. It was like, who's going to score the most? Whoever got the next shot's going to win. But it was such a crazy, wild series. But even though, obviously we lost in the second round that year, I thought we were going to go a lot further because just the way you guys were playing and got all the young kids. But beating Pittsburgh, that was like winning a cup for people in Philadelphia almost. Obviously not winning a cup, but you know what I mean. It was a great feeling to beat them though. And all the lead up from the few games near the end of Big Tilly with those guys, and I think it started with you, if I'm not mistaken. You got hit.
Joe Vitale smoked me in the middle of the ice. I kind of took it easy. I thought the game was over. It was just going to be a casual, and he smoked me right in the middle of the ice.
That's right.
And then it just raised hell after that. And Lavi, Hartsey going at it with their bench. But you know what? It got us going. I probably didn't need the dislocated shoulder.
I was going to say
I could have gone without that. But it turned out to be in our favor. The hatred between the two teams in the first round, it was amazing. Again, the last shot wins that series.
It
was
really
all the goals, the PIMs, there were the fights. I mean, it was fantastic. But I think we had a hard time transitioning in the second round against the Devils. Mm-hmm. And they played it smart. They did not confront us after any whistle. They played hard in between whistle, and we were looking for shenanigans and get in your face and get us fired up. And they just whistle blew. They turn around, skated away, and you're like, come on.
Yeah, I know, right? Engage.
Come on, it was answered.
It's playoffs. And you actually scored an overtime goal, so we win game one. And then is that then the next day when we went to Kroger? What's Chad Kroger? What's the band?
A Nickelback?
We went to the Nickelback concert. I don't think you did, but a lot of the guys
went. I don't remember
went.
that part.
You didn't go. Yeah, we went to the Nickelback. I think it was actually before that series started. So I'll take that back. It was before. No, it really was because we won game one. But we did go to the Nickelback. A lot of guys went to. Max Talbot was with us. We all went down and hung out. And I was like, man, is that why we didn't win? But we won game one, and you're like, I remember feeling like, dude, because this team, you guys are playing so well. I was like, oh, this is gonna be.
So
good.
it wasn't the Foo-Foos.
I know. And then they ran four straight off, like you said. It was disappointing, but that was a fun year with all the kids, with Coots, and in Coots we talked about G living with you. Coots obviously. Coots lived with you, and why didn't you take Jake in?
Yeah.
He scared me.
He scared me.
That would have been something.
That would have been something.
Yeah.
Smart move, little guy. Yeah, that's not what you want to do. But that was a fun team. That was a fun team to be a part of, for sure.
Before we let you go down, I appreciate your time. Just thoughts on the season. Obviously, exciting time of the year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We probably played better than people expected last year. I don't think we're going to surprise any teams going into the season. They're going to be ready for us. Now there's going to be some interesting topics. Obviously, Matvei starting, but for me, the important part, what I'm going to be looking for is for our young guys again to take another step, keep developing, keep making our team better. I hope that we'll play some meaningful games, kind of like what we did last year. Hopefully we can fare a little better, that we learned some lessons from what happened last year. But I mean, I can't be sitting here saying we're Stanley Cup contenders. We're still in the process of developing and getting better. And to me, that's part of the process, and it's exciting.
Yeah.
Especially with the step that a lot of our guys took last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was exciting.
It really was. Yeah, we always talk about just like the energy and the attitude you guys brought every night, and maybe the years before. You're going to lose games, but it's just how you lose games.
How you lose them, exactly.
Yeah,
our guys never quit.
That's right.
Never.
You were down sometimes 2-3 goals going in the third period, and our guys are still coming.
Yeah,
They're still trying.
Yeah.
I mean, even we were in Boston for that night where they did JVR. We went with one of our sponsors, Fans of Philly, and we were down 3 or 4 goals, and next thing you know, it's a 1-goal game. We're right there. It's like these never quit, and you have to love that being in the seat you're at.
Absolutely.
I mean,
it's the best.
Yeah.
Seeing your guys, they just keep fighting. They don't care, what has happened before. They just keep plowing ahead. They just want to find a way. That's all, attitude,
right.
culture. So I'm proud of what the coaching staff has done with the players and how the players have responded.
Yeah, it's exciting.
We're
pumped. It's that time of year.
Yeah,
it's exciting. I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to the start of the season, especially when you don't make the playoffs. The summer's long.
Right.
We're about 3-4 weeks away from camp, so I'm really excited, looking forward
That's
to
awesome.
it.
We can't thank you enough, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Trying
It
to
was a blast.
lock you down.
I always watch you guys, so I might skip mine. I don't like watching myself, but
I feel like we finally got you locked in. I feel like we could also go for 3 hours. There's so many things I like to talk to you about, but we do appreciate your time. I know you're a busy, man. You got a great weekend ahead of you. And I love you, brother.
love you guys.
Man. Yeah, thank you, Danny.
Right,
Enjoy.
same thing.
Yeah. All right, big thank you to Danny B for hopping on.
Yes, busy man.
Busy man. Finally locked him down.
Locked him down. Appreciate his time. Just people that know him know what a good human he is.
Yeah.
Take away the hockey and everything, but one of the things that always I hit it off with him right away. Like, he was so easy to get along. He had become a superstar. He was 2007 when he ended up coming to us for 2007, 2008. He was the All-Star MVP.
That's
the
right.
year before, when he was playing in Buffalo, and so he is on his way to becoming I guess if you want to say a superstar or one of the more elite players in the league. And man, what a down to earth guy he is.
Yeah.
Still to this day, you guys have a lot in common because I've always said how I love how you talk to the fans, and even when you played, you always had time for everyone. There's a guy right there, Danny B, that always has time, always signs. He just always went out of his way to do the right thing, and just a good person.
Yeah.
I did forget to say when I was introducing him, I think I was still in shock we locked him down. But he as a veteran of 973 games in the NHL, it's too bad he couldn't get to that 1,000 mark. But I mean, God, what a career he had, and 696 points in his career, and not that there were playoffs included in that too, which obviously they don't count for your games played, but what a career.
Yeah, amazing player, competitor. We talked about, dig in the hard areas, clutch performer.
Clutch.
And most importantly, as you mentioned, great human.
Yeah.
And I think this is why he's a perfect fit for the job, right? I think the game has changed, and that relationship from general manager to player is important. It's no longer the way it was back in the day.
Right.
Showing face, actually communicating with the players, like he's talked about on the pod here. Just wish him the best. I'm really rallying.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've rallied behind him and the team, since the start of the pod, but since they've been in their positions, even more so because we just believe in what they're doing, and
it's Flyers again.
It's Flyers culture again.
Not to put anyone else down or anything like that, but it's you have that feeling. I mean, even walking in here,
yeah, exactly.
You have that feeling. This is what it's like. It's what it's about, and he knew that. He played. Obviously, he was Mr. Schneider here, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
And the atmosphere is great, like you talked about during the interview with our fans here in Philly, who are the best in the league. Just how there's always a buzz in the rink, and I can only imagine this year it is going to be tougher. Like you said, like people know now they're coming to play every night, but it will be exciting. Like we talked about with him, seeing Matvei inserted into the lineup and seeing what he could do. But like Danny said, you're gonna have to give him some time.
Yep.
So we thank the little fella for joining us for sure.
No doubt. Isn't it ironic that you call Danny B little fella?
Well, I call him little guy. He calls me little guy.
Little guy.
We always did it, and I meant to. I just thought about it too. Like we used to. He would be doing an interview in the room. You know how the guys are kind of the kind of half moon around you guys.
The swarm.
So I used to go up behind him and I would pinch him back here, and he would do it to me. We both had bruises on the back of our arms.
That's sensitive.
Because we would. Oh my God! But I couldn't believe it. I would do it to him, and he would just give it. But he never broke in front of it. Yeah. But he would come. I'd be talking to someone and not even know, and he'd come up and I'd be like,
get your ass back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Super excited for him and Jonesy and Mr. Hilferty and everything they've got going, and it's only going to go
That's it.
up. So,
Exciting times in Flyerland.
It is. It really is. It really is.
Nice buzz. Nast. It's that time.
I think it is.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's
Time?
it's that time for a little bit of Klyr Rum. Klyr Rum questions. Mm-hmm. Klyr Rum questions brought to you by Klyr Rum. Go to klyrrum.com/shop. Type in code NASTY2023 and get 35% off on your order. We are in Philly right now, so everyone here can do that. It is PA residents only. So get on it. Baller, you've been pretty quiet today. What do you got, kid?
Leading us off today would be that Philly Matt over on Twitter. Will the power play in Philadelphia ever improve?
Well, of course it will.
Well,
it's got to.
It has to. If you want to win, for one, it's got to improve. But I think, obviously, we've talked about this in the last couple of weeks with Matvei coming in. Like, he is a power play guy. Mm-hmm. It does need to improve. Like who knows if they get in last year, a few more power play goals. Yeah. But I mean, it is what it is. But yes, it needs to, and I do think it will.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it has to. As you mentioned, if you're going to win games and go the distance, or at least become a playoff team, you have to score playoff goals, and everyone knows that. I think when you're towards the bottom, if not the bottom of the league, there's only one place to go but up.
Yeah,
and it's the reality of it. But yeah, Matvei, I would like to think is going to add some creativity and just. Maybe just being one more year matured.
Yes.
Some guys stepping up and taking on larger roles, in power play roles. So I'd like to think just by default that it improves. Better. But obviously internally, I'm sure they're talking about this every single day. So
yeah, for sure.
It will. Just takes time.
Yep.
Second up, Roy G. Beer over on Twitter. Nasty, what's it like hosting a podcast with that outfielder on the Phillies?
Marshy? Your hair's not wet, though. You got to keep it wet.
I got to add about 6-7 inches, lube it up.
You got to lube it up. No, let's trim it up. And the beard. He looks like Marshy with the hair, but he looks like Weston Wilson a little bit with the beard.
This thing's trimmed up now.
It is not trimmed.
I woke up this morning thinking of you giving me shit for not shaving my beard, so I trimmed it. Just for today, for Danny, you today.
Danny wanted you to trim it. You almost didn't do the show because you didn't trim your beard.
Homer here before saying how much you like the beard.
What's?
And he's got a beard too. Tell him to trim it.
It's not like yours.
What does that mean?
I just need a little right here. It's a little trimsy. Just a
little trimsy poo.
Yeah, that's all.
Speaking of Weston Wilson, what a game.
Wes, we got to get you on, dog. We got to get you on. Man,
Bring him on.
Yeah, knock wood. He's on fire. Yeah, hit for the cycle last night. Mm-hmm. My man.
One more, and it's another Phillies-related question. This one's from Jersey Mike. Are you still planning on a Phillies tailgate this season?
Well, Baller and I are trying to put it together. We're waiting on this guy to my left that used to wear number 32 for the Flyers.
What are you waiting on?
Waiting on you
I'm ready.
to give us the day where we can do it. Because your sketch is worse than anyone's. I would think you're with Danny and being a GM here. Because you can never find you.
Who knows? Maybe I am a GM.
For the djembe.
Yeah, right. For the drum.
We are trying to work on that now before we run out of time, obviously. But we will hopefully decide something in the next week or so because we were obviously talking about that. So, yes, we have a blast doing that. Everybody coming
It's
over.
fun.
It's a lot of fun. So we'll let you guys know. We'll figure that out as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. And that's a wrap, Nas.
That's it.
Hard to believe. 169 in the book.
Can't believe it.
Finally locked Danny B down.
Yes.
Got him here at the study in Philadelphia.
Yeah, at the study. And I don't think there's much studying going on.
No, there's
there.
no studying going on there.
As Joe Watts would say, there's some Bubba Louie's going down over there.
Yeah, I think every second it gets louder and louder
It
out there.
just seems to get
drowning
louder.
out the pod here.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. So
We better go over there and go say hi.
Yeah, go say hi. All right.
And that's a wrap. 169 in the books. Appreciate all the support. Be sure to hit us up with a few questions for next week. And until then, stay safe, knuckleheads.
Yep.